I think these tech companies, have really for a decade been seen as these dynamic, positive forces in American life, and there's just this combination of things happening. Particularly a perception that Facebook, that Google in particular, were involved in screwing up the 2016 election. That got a lot of people mad. And then also I think the broadening extent of all of their market power, but I think particularly Amazon, this sense that they play a really outsized role in retail that everyone feels now, that is no longer over there on the internet.
I question your premise a little bit. You say that tech hasn't had to contend with its government moment yet, but we had Microsoft antitrust, which you do mention. Google's been under scrutiny for the past decade for various things, including competition in Europe. Apple had antitrust scrutiny over digital rights management on the iPod and iTunes, and it continues to have scrutiny over various things. I mean, we've kind of been here for a while, have we not?
I think the Microsoft analogy is right. They faced a real frontal assault when it seemed like that they had gotten too big for their britches, and ultimately that assault, they kind of won a Pyrrhic victory in the end, but paved the way in part for Google's rise. I guess I think what's happening now is that they're shifting from the kind of not nickel and dime, very important regulatory stuff, DRM, these are not unimportant issues, but to a sense that their place in American life is changing. That I think this is something that the oil industry went to. There was a time when wildcatters were seen as these romantic cowboy figures. Same with Wall Street. And now they're seen as established interests whose home state senators fight for loopholes for them, who have many enemies, and there's kind of a constant trench warfare, but they're not glamorized.
So when you say blood in the water, do you think that there will be regulations that will curb the growth of these guys, or somehow change the way they grow, change their business model in any way? Or is this sort of a grassroots?
I think there will be
consumer revolt.
I guess I would think first about Capitol Hill. I think there's going to be pressure both from the kind of Bernie Sanders left, which mistrusts corporate power, and from the Steve Bannon right, that really thinks these guys have progressive values and doesn't like that, to handcuff them in whatever way they can. I mean, it's hard to imagine real strong antitrust action. I also think there's going to be a lot of pressure on them to prove that they are patriotic American companies, which is a real challenge for big global companies, right? If you are busy in proving in Washington how American you are.
Why do companies have to be patriotic companies? Companies are in the business of running a business model, of making money for shareholders, of serving the public.
Sure, tell it to the committee on Capitol Hill. It's a tough thing to say.
I might argue it actually got easier under the Trump presidency for them to do that, because back under the Obama presidency, this was a president who much of Silicon Valley, which is on the left, seemed to agree with, arguing for, hey, the level of encryption you're putting on is bad, that's dangerous. Now they've got Trump. They can be against his immigration stance, but also against his encryption stance, and they can say, well, we're both American, we just have different ideas.
Yeah, Trump is so unpopular right now and weak that there's a lot of room for them to navigate. But I do think there's these big shifts in both parties that don't ultimately play to where they want to be.
What about the defense that the products themselves are so popular with consumers that there's no fuel there for politicians to lever?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, that is their great strength. These are 90% favorable rated products that everybody uses, everybody loves. I mean, I think if you want a cautionary tale of that, look at Uber. Right, that's a company where essentially a kind of political media storm over them wound up really hitting their core metrics, and that's no longer a beloved, popular company, although it is a widely used one.
But that was alleged bad behavior. This is just sort of being big, being too big, maybe. I mean, they didn't really. None of these companies have done anything.
The stuff that happened on Facebook during the 2016 election is, in a sort of broad sense, probably had a lot more impact on America than the conduct of Uber's executives.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.